in the fossil record, we should find many, many intermediates leading up to the modern-day horse. Many intermediates. They're saying it was slow, gradual processes. Gradualism, that's based on Darwinian evolution. Slow, gradual change from a common ancestor. But then a few paragraphs after that, they make this statement out of the book. According to punctuated equilibria, new species evolved rapidly during a short period of time. Intermediate forms were rare. Now they're turning right around and saying we don't have all the intermediates because it happened so fast. Well, wait a minute. Remember, a theory has to be falsifiable, doesn't it? What they're saying here is if we find the intermediates, it supports evolution. If we don't find the intermediates, it supports evolution.
The evolutionists realize that they can no longer rely on the fossil record to give them any support. So what they've done is they've come up with a very crafty alternative to the Darwinian concept of evolution. They call it the punctuated equilibria concept.
One of the really exciting developments in evolutionary theory in the last 10 to 15 years has been the theory that instead of evolving very gradually over a long period of time, that evolution came in short bursts that were interspersed with much longer periods where virtually nothing happened.
You see, this solves all kinds of problems intellectually for the evolutionist. He doesn't have to look at the fossil record.
There is no evidence in the fossil record that one type of animal ever changed into another type of animal. Punctuated equilibria comes along and says that isolated populations of animals evolved rapidly and left no fossil trace. But this is an argument from lack of data. There are no transitional forms, and that's used then as proof of the brand of evolution called punctuated equilibria. This is bad science.
With this new information, we're trying to refine our view of evolution. And what's emerging is a much more powerful synthesis of the evolutionary theories.
I'm convinced that the idea of punctuated equilibria is really a desperate attempt to salvage evolutionary theory.
Punctuated equilibrium, while attempting to explain the lack of intermediate forms between neighboring species, neglects to address the real issue that asks why there are no transitions between major categories of life forms. One extraordinary answer was offered by Goldschmidt's hopeful monster theory.
Who would believe, for instance, that a reptile laid an egg and a bird came crawling out of the egg, as Goldschmidt had said about this theory when he first came up with it?
We are literally going back to the very foundations of evolutionary principles and reevaluating once again the mechanisms whereby evolution takes place. Unfortunately, I think a number of those outside the scientific fields that deal with evolution interpret this as a casting doubt on the very what I would call the fact of evolution.
The fossil record so clearly favors creationism that evolutionists would rather just ignore the fossil record or propose new explanations, such as punctuated equilibrium or the hopeful monster. These explanations claim that evolution happened so fast that no transitional fossils are left behind as evidence. These explanations are closer to creationism, with God creating in one step, than the slow, gradual evolutionary process as proposed by Darwin. In spite of their disclaimers, these new explanations do support creationism more than evolution, as well as conceding that there is a real lack of certifiable transition fossils. As Christians, we desire to know the truth and are willing to follow the facts wherever they lead. The facts discovered by studying the fossil record support creationism as the correct theory for the origin of life on Earth. Evolutionists have a predetermined truth that evolution is true and are willing to ignore the facts to save evolutionary theory. Knowing this, I do not expect to persuade evolutionists that they have been wrong all along, but rather to encourage Christians that we have nothing to fear from evolutionary theory, and definitely not to compromise the clear teaching of the Bible to accommodate man's fallible theories. All Scripture is inspired by God and is useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. 2 Timothy 3:16.